whether it may be climate change, it may be population dynamics, it may be biotechnology, I could see Sangeeta here, or expanding digital marketplace. We see that the rise of machine learning and artificial learning, all these aspects are changing very rapidly. And for that, we need a very, very robust ecosystem of research. Then again, to become a leading social knowledge society in these areas in the coming years and decades, we as a nation require significant expansion in our research capabilities, and we have to output across disciplines using its vast talent. And we see that this policy is also very, very academically flexible, because it speaks about the multidisciplinary, it speaks about the interdisciplinary researches, so that the talent from other fields may also be included as a part, and the output of that across disciplines may be good in the research work. So today, for the economic, intellectual, societal, or environmental, as well as this technological health, also we see that how important is the research. We find here, particularly during this COVID period, and how all these they have done their research. It is not only the medical science that research for producing the vaccination, but otherwise also how to maintain the economy, how to manage the things, how the intellectual has to be put forward, how the environment has to be changed, the society has to be brought forward. So all these things we see that the research has done wonderful job. And for that, we see that there was the disciplines, different disciplines which came together, and then they did all these things. So we find that the research output is very important, and for that we find there are certain societal changes that India needs to address today, such as access to all the citizens of clean drinking water, sanitation, quality education, healthcare. So many things are there, because this is also the part of the policy for research. If we don't have the good environment for work, if we don't have the environment where our researchers could do good research, then the output would not be good. So all these things are the very basic requirements which the policy discusses about, and it says that the research and education will require the implementation of various approaches and the various, you can say, the solutions that are not only informed in the top-notch science and technology, but from the grassroots level, it has to be there. In the social sciences and humanities, the deep understanding of all these things are also very, very important. So this policy basically facing and addressing these challenges with high quality interdisciplinary research across the field. That is one of the very, very important aspects for research under this national education policy, which has to come forward for going for the new researches, and that may result into innovative researches as such. This is the focus of the policy. And along with that, science research, the researches in arts and humanities, along with the innovations in science and social sciences, as I told you, is extremely important. And research and innovation at the education institutions in India, particularly those that are engaged in the higher education, is critical now. And we see that the evidence from the world's best universities throughout history shows that the best teaching and learning process at the higher education level occurs in places where they have a strong culture of research and knowledge creation. Because as I told you earlier also, that our universities are mainly focused on teaching. They are focused on learning. They are not focused on the research and knowledge creation. So if we need our good researchers should be there, then we have to make a shift from teaching learning towards the knowledge creation, towards the culture of research. I will be speaking on this culture of research a little bit later. But this is one of the requirement, and we see that many good researches in the world that have occurred in the multidisciplinary university settings. So we have not to be confined in, or we have not to be compartmentalized in research, like microbiology will do its own research or biotech will do its own research. They have to come together with the patents law, with the other societal values, with the home science aspect. So many aspects are there which has to be done properly. So India has, we see a long historical tradition of research and knowledge creation because everybody knows about that. We have the great researches done in the space, in medical, in science, in agriculture. We became great nuclear power also. We had green revolution in our country, and number of innovative researches programs in traditional medicine of Ayurveda, Unani, the blend of it with the allopathic wherever it was necessary. So these all have been there in Indian, in the history of India, we can say, and we see that this was all there. So what is required today is that we have to move forward for the quality of research instead of the quantity of research in India, so that the policy is also looking forward for the comprehensive approach of transforming the quality towards the quantity towards the quality of research in India. Then this policy speaks of the school education to be more play and discovery based style of learning. As I told you, that it has to be learning by doing. The action learning is to be there. It is not to be based on what I have learned and remember and then to ooze out in the examination. It's not to be like rote learning. It has to go away, so that the new ideas may develop from the very beginning, from the school education, so that this culture would develop from the school education, and that will be reflected when the students will reach to the university or the college level, and then the research output would be really very, very nice. So this is one of the aspects of the national education policy, and that is to grow and produce the quality research. And this NRF is most important aspect for that. And because the teachers, if they are to do research, so how they have to be, encouraged for doing the research. So for that, the provision is also there in the NRF. And the main goal is that if it has to provide a merit-based or peer-reviewed research funding, and it is also speaking to give some incentives, to take initiatives, to give seed money to grow the research output in the state universities. The funding has to be made so that the teachers may be attracted, the university and college teachers may be attracted to go for the projects, to go do good researches, so that their work may be rewarded. So this provision is there in the policy through NRF, and there is no distinction in the discipline as such, that science and non-science. It is equal to all the disciplines. It's not that the arts and humanities and social sciences, they cannot do research. The funding would be made available. This is the provision there. And the successful researches will be recognized by this also. So we can say that this NRF has to work towards seeding, funding, coordinating and monitoring research and innovations initiatives, and this is one of the very good aspects to increase the research and innovation in the country by this policy of 2020. And further, you see the institutions which are currently funding for researches at some level, be it DST, DBT, ICSSR, ICAR, and many more, ICMR, etc. So they are all funding. So they will continue to fund. There is no problem. But this NRF will also fund the science and non-science research project. So we have to see that sometimes it happens that this NRF has to be very careful in coordinating with these agencies, as I told you, because these agencies has to continue with that, giving the money or funding the projects, and the NRF will also do. So there should not be anything so that the money may be given in duplication to the efforts of those persons who are trying for the project. this has to be avoided. We have to work upon that in the NRF also, and to make certain policies for that. Then Sanskrit and Indian languages like Pali, Persian, Prakrit, etc. The policy speaks about to create the national institutes for this, national institutes for Sanskrit, national institute for Pali, national institute for Persian within the university. And NRF has to support entire research and other work for the creation and all these for the areas on these languages. So one of the great aspects is that language becomes barrier in producing good researches, because we know that the students who are residing in the rural area, they are also having very good brain. They can do wonders, but because of the language barrier, because of the language problem, they couldn't come forward. And that's why this policy is wonderful in that aspect, which speaks about that the mother tongue has to be used in the school education, and then if the innovative ideas are to be created in the mother tongue, then naturally it would impact the good research, and NRF is going to support this research for outstanding work in the areas of languages also. Then we have by this policy one national educational technology forum, and that has to be created. That has to provide the platform for free exchange of ideas to use the technology, so that it may enhance the learning, assessment, planning, etc., both in the school level as well as in the higher education level. So this NEP, which is one of the aspects which can articulate new directions for research and innovation in the higher educational institutions, like IITs in the rural area maybe established, so that the catchment area of those IITs, they may percolate their knowledge to those rural students. This is also one of the aspects on which the NEP is focusing. And all degree programs, whether it may be a bachelor, so it has to be left to the colleges and higher educational institutions like IITs, etc. They should concentrate on the research aspect only. So this is again one of the vision of this policy of 2020. Then regarding the word intellectual property, as I told you, on innovation and on research, we have spent in India crores and crores of money. But there are certain drawbacks also that couldn't reach to its final conclusion. So we need to educate, we need to give the degrees, we need to come forward for innovations, and we have to see as to what languages are being used in from our neighboring countries. For example, everybody must be knowing how China is developing. Leave this period of this corona or lockdown, but you see that in each and every item, from very little item to the biggest item, they have innovated so fast, and they are innovating, they are doing research, and they have kept the entire market even. So how they are doing these things, so we have to look on these aspects also, and we have to see that research and innovation are embedded in these countries, which we need to transfer in our country, which we need to translate in our country also, so that we can also have those market area. We can innovate in every aspect, and we have to have some strong market for all these small items and big items, as the neighboring countries are having. And for that, we need a collaboration between academia and industry. So this is not a new thing in this NEP, but this is something which we are discussing in our educational institutions since beginning, that the academia and industry collaboration is very important. Though this NEP has also envisioned this, and it calls for a patent policy structure at the university level to facilitate more and more patent applications, and we find that in our university also the patent cell is there for giving help, for assisting those scientists who are not aware about that. But that patent cell again has to be multidisciplinary, and because the scientists, they can tell or they can give the help to the scientists as to whether this particular research is patentable or not. But how to patent, where to go, how to do this work, for that the experts from the other fields for law and all this is also very important, so that they may pinpoint as to how to give more and more, how to have the more and more patents awarded to the applications. So this is again one of the aspects of this national education policy. Then we see that regarding provisions for the assessment and accountability, this is again one of the aspects as to how to assess the students' work, how to assess the research, because this assessment may be a great game changer for research and innovation in the country. And we see that this policy speaks about that, to retaining the intellectual property rights. It permits the researchers to retain their intellectual property rights. So what law is there for that? National law universities, the School of Laws, various law departments, they can come forward for this purpose to assist our scientists, so that their research would not go in vain, their research would be successful in that way. And then this is considered to be happen by this policy of 2020. A strong skill development component is included as a part of the academic program. So I feel that NRF, that is National Research Foundation, could bring some hope to the younger generation who are keen in excelling in research field, and they may have all these things. So the second aspect, that is relating to the innovation, we find that innovation is not something new, and since 18th century or 17th century, we have different waves of innovation. If we see that what we have today with us, so this is all the result of the innovative ideas or innovations. We are on the social media, we are talking to each other without going physically, without meeting physically. These are all the parts of various innovations. These are different waves of the innovation. So starting from the mechanization of the steam, water power, then another phase of mass production and electricity, then electronics, we find that has their automation was there, cyber and physical system has come forward, and now we are talking about the super smart society also. So these are all the phases, or these are all the waves of innovation with which India has always been conversant with. And in India, we see that it emerged as a global innovation hub also. The youth of our country, especially in higher education institutions, they need to play a very, very crucial role to create a sustainable innovation ecosystem. And for that, all higher education institutions should have a comprehensive and functional mechanism for converting or for translating their researches into innovations. What we did earlier, we have to move forward. We have to come with exponential growth of the innovation through our researches. So this ecosystem will encourage, it will inspire the younger, or it will nurture the young students also by exposing them in the new ideas. So innovative clubs, incubation centers, and all these things across all the disciplines, including arts, humanities, language, sport, vocational subjects. Because in vocational subjects, you see innovative ideas are more and more common. So that should also be given a space, and this also is envisioned by the policy 2020, new education policy, so that we can innovate in all these areas. And as a part of this innovative system, this continuous professional development, that is for the self-improvement and to learn the latest innovations and advancements in the particular profession, that has been pointed in this policy of 2020, that is CPD, continuous professional development. So that each teacher will be expected to participate in at least 50 hours of this continuous professional development opportunities every year for their own professional development. As we are talking about the refresher courses, the orientation courses, and now it is online, ARPIT, etc. So for this continuous professional development, 50 hours, and it would not be confined only to the teachers from the initial level or induction level. This is to be going to be compulsory for all the because the professional development is required, because the our things are being changes very rapidly. So on to make a hold on those rapid changes, it is required that some time of the training should also be there. So the latest pedagogies regarding foundational literacy, numeracy, this learning outcomes, competency-based learning, this all is the part of the CPD. So starting from the school level, because at school education you see storytelling or showing the colors, showing the numericals, showing the numbers, all these things. These are the continuous professional development of the teacher as well as the student. So this is required, and this would be very, very innovative also. Then setting of the multiple or multidisciplinary education and research universities known as the MERU. That is one of the focused area of this NEP or National Education Policy. So setting up of the model public universities for multidisciplinary education at par with this IITs, IIMs, etc. MERU has to be established, and for that the stand-alone universities like IITs, which are only and only catering the engineering education, or for that management institution, or NLUs which are catering only law education. So in coming time, by the year 35, they have to be as a multidisciplinary education and research universities. They will not be remain as silos or the stand-alone universities, but they have to become the multidisciplinary education universities and research universities. And the basic aim is just to attain the highest global standards in the quality education. They will also help, you see, to set the highest standard for multidisciplinary education across India, because if there would be more and more multidisciplinary education research universities, then the entry point, the enrollment ratio would also be increased, because if we are having more IITs, more IIMs, then they are confined only to the students who are targeting management education, or for that purpose the engineering education. But if it would be going to be multidisciplinary education, then it would cater more and more students, so that the general enrollment ratio will also be increased. And for that, you see, this educational institution should have to focus on research and innovation by, as I told you, setting up the incubation startups, the startups incubation center, technology development centers, the centers in the frontier areas of researches that are also important. Industry academic researches, or the linkages between these are also to be taken care with this MERU type of the universities. So this is the focused area of the NEP, and NRF, National Research Foundation, will function to help and enable and support for the vibrant research and innovation and culture across the higher education institutions by establishing research labs, and for that research organizations. So all this work has been there. Regarding funding, that is to be on the NRF. Then we see that with this MERU, there is another thing, as I told you, multidisciplinary. This has how it has to be taken care of. So again, it is there that we have the choice-based credit system. Though it was there earlier also since beginning, and this NEP is focusing that it has to be revised, or for instilling the innovation and flexibility. So each institution will integrate its academic plans, ranging from the various, curricular improvement, or we see that the classroom transaction, or it should be quality classroom transaction. This is all very much required for the development of the educational institution, because this would also increase the ranking or the number of the university in the ranking list on the higher side. So innovation has to be done through multidisciplinary research. It has to be done through the CBCS. It has to be done from the school education, and it has to be done through the online distance learning or traditional in-class mode learning also. So for that, we see that if the universities or higher education institutions, if they are capable or eligible for online distance learning, then this ranking is also increased and enhanced in that way. So all the universities have to think about research and innovation in that area so that ranking may be enhanced, because these are the related terms. So regarding ranking, we see that this is the third aspect. We see that through NEP, the regulatory system of higher education has to be transformed, and the primary mechanism to enable such regulation will be accreditation. And as per the NEP, this is this NAC. This is said to be National Accreditation Council. Presently, we have NAAC, NAC, Assessment and Accreditation, but NEP provides for the NAC. This is a meta accrediting body, and this is there in the second vertical of the Higher Education Commission of India. So the basic work of this accreditation body is to accredit the institution primarily on some of the basic norms and public self-discourse, good governance outcomes. All these aspects would be there for the accreditation or for ranking. So this ranking become very, very important under this particular national education policy also. Besides that, we all know that a culture of ranking is dominating today's world. And as we have seen the latest result of the NIRF, so everybody is talking about the NIRF also ranking. There are many university rankings. It's not only the NIRF. There are many university rankings, such as academic ranking of world universities, ARWU. There is a Time Higher Education. There is a QS ranking, or ranking by various newspapers, magazines, and of course national institutional ranking framework, that is NIRF. So we see that globally there are rankings like ARWU, EHP, and QS. In India, we have NIRF and various newspaper and magazines. They also go for the this educational institutions ranking framework. And this Times Higher Education gives 60% weightage to the research. US gives 20% of the weightage to the research. And in India, we see NIRF gives about 30% of the research as a part of its ranking. So the ranking of the Indian institutions and the university, it is not only a big but a very, very challenging one also. I was listening one of the seminar and webinar, and their National Board of Accreditation chairman, Professor K.K. Agarwal, he was talking about that to collect the data has become a great task. So how to collect the data, and we have also seen how to collect the data, how to provide the data accordingly as per the requirement. That is a very, very big challenge. And this requires the knowledge of the higher education system in India also. Since 2015, MHRD, now Ministry of Education, releases every year the National Institutional Ranking Framework. And since the ranking process is voluntary, so all the universities and colleges do not apply for the ranking, because NAC has become compulsory and NIRF still is voluntary. So NIRF ranking is done in 9 categories. There is overall ranking, which looks at the institutions across all disciplines. Then university ranking, college ranking is there, engineering, management, pharmacy, law, subject specific, that is medical ranking. So all these rankings are there. And the basic objective is just to promote the competitive excellence in the higher educational institutions in the country. So this NIRF ranking benefits the students who are aspiring to pursue higher education in India. Further, we see that in order to ensure the innovation, which is a primary fulcrum of all the higher educational institutions as we are talking about. So since 2018, the Ministry of Human Resource Development, now Education, they have introduced Atal ranking of institutions on innovative achievements, ARIA. That is not as, this publicity is not as such of this Atal rankings of institutions as NIRF, because NIRF is started in 2015 and this Atal ranking has started in 2018. So this ARIA is exclusively for the innovative or innovation achievements for the higher educational institutions. And it is systematically ranking the educational institutions and universities on the innovation related indicators. And the major indicators which are commonly used globally to rank most of the innovative education institutions and the world as a whole, we find that those are the point or those are the factors which have been or indicators which have been made a part of this ARIA or this Atal ranking of institutions and innovation achievement. So coming to the NIRF as to how this NIRF parameter works for the ranking, we find that the parameter and metrics for the universities and for the colleges are a little bit different. However, the indicators are same, but the weightage is different. And we see that the teaching, learning, and resources, that is given 100 marks, and weightage for university is 30, while for college it is 40, because it is considered that the colleges will be involved in teaching and learning and they would not go for the research, and universities would have the area of research also. So 30 and 40, this is the weightage which is given for teaching and learning, in which the faculty teacher student ratio has to be seen and emphasis is to be on the permanent faculty. Then combined metric for the faculty and PhD experience has to be seen, how many faculties are having the PhD degrees, the library metrics, the laboratory facilities, various things are there. So these 100 marks have been divided in this teaching learning resources on the student teacher ratio, faculty, PhD and their degrees, the metrics for the library, and the sport facilities and extracurricular activities are also the part. One thing which is important for this metric or this parameter for university and the college under NIRF is that the data verification by ranking agency on a random sample basis. So it's a verification, it's not the validation, which is a part of the National Accreditation and Assessment Council, which speaks of the DVV. It's only a data verification. So if it requires some verification, then it can send the ranking agency can send the random sampling for random sample basis this verification. Otherwise, there is no requirement. Then besides teacher learning, there is research productivity, impact, and intellectual property rights. So all these, again, the weightage is 100. So university this time is given 40% weightage, while the colleges have been given the 20% weightage. So research, as I told you, is considered to be a part of the university system. 40% weightage is there for this research productivity and IPR impact, while for colleges it is 20%. That includes the combined metric for the publications, citations, IPR, etc. These are all there. And data collection is to be made available by the concerned institutions online, and verification again is on the random sample basis. Then another parameter is graduation outcome, 100% marks. Weightage for university, 5%. Weightage for colleges, 15%. Because it is dependent on the teaching and learning process, basically, graduate outcome. So this is there, and then it includes the combined performance in the university examination, combined performance in the public examinations also. Today I could see that the UPSC result has been declared. Many students who are there in the top list, they are the students of some or the other universities. So that will increase their perception in the in this graduate outcome, because this 50 marks have been allotted in the NIRF for this type of the public examination. So data is collected from the Public Service Examination Commissions or various other examining bodies on random basis. There is no requirement that each and every thing which has been uploaded, that has to be verified. It is not like NEP. Then outreach and inclusivity is another parameter for 100 marks. Now here the percentage or weightage is equal for the college and the universities. For both this is 15%. And in that outreach you see continuing education services, that is all teacher training and related outreach services, participation in the e-content creation programs of the government UGC like EPG Pathshala, CEC and others like things. So this is all there for that purpose, and outcome and inclusivity is having equal weightage for the college and the university system. And then the percentage of the students from the other states, that is the diversity, regional diversity, 25 marks is to be given. Then percentage of the women students, women faculty, disabled persons. So all these are the pointers for making the ranking under this NIRF. And finally the perception, 100 marks, and it is 10% both for the universities and the college, where you see the peer rating is categorized and applications of the seat ratio. How many students have applied for your different programs and how many have taken the admission, what is the ratio. So that is also very important factor for the perception. It's not that what the others are saying. It has to be database. It has to be verified there. How many students have applied and how many courses you are running at UG and PG level. All these are things. So this is the pointer under this NRF ranking, the data verification by ranking agencies based on the random sampling, and NAC is different from that. That is also very, very important. And the second type of the ranking, which I told you, is inclusively or exclusively for the innovation, that is Atal ranking, started since 2018. So initiative of the ministry, and this is also working on different aspects, like because it is related to the innovation. So of course the research projects are to be taken care of. So budget, expenses, infrastructure, facility, awareness for promoting the idea and generation for innovation, and intellectual property also one of the aspects, innovative learning. So these are the pointers which we find that Atal ranking of the institution for innovative research achievements, that is there for the ARIA ranking. And parameters are based on these all aspects which I told you. Teaching learning is there, but a very small weightage has been given. Infrastructure facility, the highest points have been allotted to this infrastructure and facility. Innovation, the highest percentage has been allotted. Number of non-technical innovations, number of ideas, number of innovative projects, that has to be ranked about. The startups have been established or not, whether the faculty or the founder or the co-founder of that faculty, how much money has been given for the startup, what is the turnover of that startup. So all these are the factors which are related to the Atal ranking. And then expenses and revenue is also very important for this Atal ranking. So regarding ranking, because we in India have these type of the ranking, and we see that when this ranking and RF came, then there are many of the articles written by various educationists and academicians in that respect regarding the negativity and the positivity, or the positive and negative aspects of the ranking. So not everyone is happy with the ranking criteria. As I told you that it is not specific. The specificity regarding region, academic, personal and all these areas are not there. It's a uniform scale. So on that basis, you see that there are different point of views of various academicians, etc. on the type of the ranking or the criteria of ranking, the idea of ranking itself. And I would like to tell here some idea of Francis Davis Manjali. Is a professor in linguistics in JNU, when he said that, I quote, that the this once quantification and ranking take over higher education and research, the quality of thinking and social concern suffer. Quantification came into this domain from business and media sector. So, though to apply for the NRF ranking is not compulsory as of now, as I told you, it seems that NRF forced universities to compete with each other for funds and students. However, we know that some important factors are not measurable at all by any parameter of ranking, because higher education abroad is not only about the best reputation, salaries, researches, etc. We see the important part of selecting a good university is finding an education you can afford, or campus you are enjoying living in, or the things that who were your mentors, what they have given, or what type of the advices they have given, by whose advice you have been inspired, and where you are doing is the result of the mentorship of which teacher. So all these aspects are not measurable, and if it is not measurable and it is dependent on the output of that research and other areas, how this can be measured? So this can never be a one size fit to all. This is related to the NIRF ranking. And very recently, I have gone through two articles on ranking. One is The Obsession with Ranking by Abhijit Pathak in 21st September, Pioneer and Fund and Faculty Found in Higher Education by Furqan Qamar, 21st September again in Hindu. So in Hindu, we analyze that the new edition, that is the 6th edition of NIRF result, highlights the huge gap between the best and the rest. Because you see that IISc is there, IITs are there, and at the same time the private universities, PPT, PBA, and other universities or some other universities, they are also there. So how you can make a uniform scale for grading, for ranking between the best universities and the other universities? These articles are very, very, I can say, eye-opener regarding ranking in the institutions, which poses many relevant questions like can the NIRF scale measure and rank the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom? How you can rank this? What knowledge one is having? And though it is obvious that hyper competitive world, it cannot imagine about that without practice of ranking, grading, measuring, etc. We have to go for that, and for that there must be certain measures which have to be taken care of, because we rank schools, we rank colleges, we rank universities, and nothing can be unique with its qualitatively distinctive character. The struggles for contradictions and possibilities. And the authors, as I told you, they say that mathematics triumphs in these type of the rankings, and nuances based of seeing the specificity of a learning community that disappear. So we have to see in that respect, and is there something abnormal in this certainty of numbers? How we have to go about all these things? How can there be a uniform scale to measure the work of Einstein or Amsen or Upendra Bakshi, a scientist, an economist, or a jurist? Is it possible to evaluate the impact of the professor of history and that professor of microbiology or biotechnology with a uniform scale? On the function and objective counts, can there be a uniform scale for the Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, and our own university, Baba Saheb Ambedkar University, Lucknow? On progression of the students also and their placement, the heart of the very, very, larger side of the weightage is given in this NRF ranking. So how we are going to tackle and how we are going to cope all these things, this is also very important. And for that, we see that we cannot think of winning medal in Olympic without showing our excellence at the national sports. We have to look our own system, our own culture, and then we have to go for these type of the rankings, first nationally and then globally, because as I told you, there are global rankings also, and NEP speaks about the internationality and global challenges and global existence of Indian universities without considering the grassroots or the reality of the country's educational institutions. For that purpose, we have to go for a positive sign. We must look some advantages of ranking too. It's not that it is all not doing well, but we have certain ideas on which we can go for the ranking assessment also. So if a university institute is ranked in the top numbers, it would have the effect on the students to help them. They are aspiring for or choosing for a particular institution because, as you know, that ISC is at number one. The students from science background, they are aspiring to have the admission, the PHU, that is number three, JNU. So they are aspiring for going there. So this is one of the good aspect or positive aspect of the ranking, that it makes the student to learn where they have to go, which institution they have to choose about, and at the same time it also enhances the chances for securing research funds from various agencies to the faculty members. If the faculty members are belonging to these institutions which are on the top list, so research funding agencies, they are also, giving them the fund for their projects very liberally. This is also one of the aspects for this NRF ranking. Then the university which has not come in the top numbers, that may identify the areas of improvement also. That what are those areas where the university was lagging behind, and where in the next ranking or the next application for the ranking where we have to improve. So this is something like a self-appraisal of the university itself, that they can improve and they can assess their where they stand, what they have to do, what is the deficiencies, how those deficiencies are to be overcome. So these are the positive sides of the ranking, and this has to be taken in a positive way, in a positive manner. Then for research and for getting good rankings, a postdoc culture is to be developed like foreign countries, because those who have who have done their PhDs and later they do their postdoc, they will have more clarity on the subject, and they can contribute more good research papers against the present status of more number without quality. Because we see that the list which has been published, that the numbers or the quantity of these articles which have been published, that is much more higher, but quality wise where they stand, that is a great fact which has to be considered. So the research culture has to be developed, and there are various government agencies which are working in silos, like as I told you, DBT, DST, etc., giving fundings to the project. And there are examples also that these persons who are taking the project, they are giving their project from to one agency, getting money from there. They're also getting money from the other funding agencies also. So now this NRF, as I told you, as a part of the NEP, and that all these different bodies have to share their data, so that money may be given to more and more number of candidates for their projects, instead of a single candidate by different agencies, more and more money. And the same project does not get money again and again from different agencies, then the government and various agencies have to spend, you see, more than 70 to 80,000 crore rupees in the innovation and ecosystem. But the result was not same. So it is required that global ranking in India, again, we are far behind. It seems that there is a lack of ability, or there are stringent regulations which doesn't allow to work. Or delay on the part of the administration in clearing the files in the universities and the institutions. The delay in movement of files is also the reason which makes faculty reluctant to go for the project. This is one of the very important factors, for which we find that in our university also, sometimes I had the occasion to talk some of the junior teachers, then they say that we don't want to get the project because the files are not moved properly, it goes delayed. So they are reluctant to, because if a new teacher, if a younger teacher, if a researcher, if he or she would be involved in all these types of the technicalities, what would be the result of the research and innovation? This is one of the aspects. The policy has to work, and the administration or the educational institutions have to think about, so that to promote the innovation, the mindset in this country is required to train, and not only the youngsters on the problem solving or the cognitive skills, but the leaders, the administrators, they were also required to be trained as to how to move smoothly the files whereby the research and innovative work should not be sustained and delayed. So innovation skills are to be developed from school education, as I told you. Further, university and institute has to see that its name on the top ranking. So the work culture needs to be changed. We should be more liberal in terms of file movement and strict in terms of the research culture. Then connecting institutions for training may enhance the research culture. Because you see the faculty from the universities or colleges, they may be sent to the IITs to learn how their faculties do research, or provisions should be made so that the tier 2 and tier 3 organizations and they may send their faculty to tier 1 institutions under the exchange of faculty program, so that there would be a cross-fertilization of the academia. And these xenotypes of the institution's culture should be broken out. And in this way, you see the culture of work or culture of research that will percolate down in these institutions where there is no research work. And what we see today, that research and teaching have been compartmentalized, so university need to be more and more focused on that part. Meru has to be there, CBCS system has to be there. We need to work on these provisions to develop the interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research for the benefit of the society. For that, personal things are to be kept aside, and we have to work in togetherness. Then finally, library is said to be the heart of the academic institution or any research institution. So enriching our libraries, digitalization, that is based on the funding. And we cannot compare. We are comparing that the funding of our libraries with the premier institutions. I have seen that the ISC is spending rupees 15 crore annually on its library. How we can compare this 15 crore annual expenditure with this less than 15 lakh annually in a library? So what type of the research output would be there? So how to compare these things, this is also very, very important, and we have to think about that. And then this digitalization, though we have this National Digital Library, NIT, InfliPlat, remote access to library by IEEE, etc. They are all there. But how many knows about this? And most importantly, during this pandemic, we all are aware that whether the digital divide allows them to access the National Digital Library or for that matter any other remote access system, the policy speaks about more robust technology to be used, but ground realities need to be addressed first by this policy. And finally, I would say that research and innovation need to be embedded without going into the ranking as a popularity contest of university, like it's a bird affair or something like that. Institutes, universities should focus more on research and innovation. Good ranking will be the automatic result of that. So we all as a teacher, we all as the students, the scholars, we have to work hard so that some innovation and research may be resultant, and that's how the ranking of the university would be enhanced, and we would be there in the top ranks of the university of the national ranking, and then we can reach to the global ranking also. So with these words, I would like to thank to the organizers, particularly Professor Govindji Pandey, Dr. Arifka, Dr. Rashri, for giving me the opportunity to share my views on research, innovation, and ranking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for such a wonderful, thought-provoking lecture. You have rightly pointed out that quantity is not an indicator of quality. But unfortunately, see the irony that the ranking is based on quantity. We are basically, going for quantity rather than focusing on quality. Without ranking, we were number one. We invented zero. We were Vishwaguru. We had 26% share in world economy when there was no ranking. and we had an ancient knowledge, dissemination system. But unfortunately, we have left many things. And let me share also a few things which I have earned during my, journey as a teacher. And I really wonder that when we, decide the topic of our research scholar, we as a teacher basically play a dominating role rather than assisting the research scholar in choosing the topic or subject or making them understand, the area of research. We decide that what should be the topic, and this is something which basically haunts me. Like, why are we involved? Because this is not my research. So don't you see? Because I want this interaction to be interactive also. Don't you think that it needs to be corrected? The system should be corrected so that the student get more power to choose about the topic or the area of research, rather than research supervisor telling that, look, this is my area, this is my super specialization, and you choose this particular area for research work. Don't you think that?
Yeah, absolutely agree with your point, Dr. Pandey. I am reminded here in my initial years of the job, when I started teaching, one of the vice chancellor said that PhD is nothing, it's a matter of two good friends of the supervisor. If you are having two good friends, then the report would be okay. There was a brainstorming session at the level of the Ministry of Education on this research, innovation, etc., where one of the vice chancellor from Nanda University and Professor Supparappa, he was also saying that when we send the research for evaluation to good teachers or for good institutions, then they will call back you that this is your student, what should I do? I'll say that I have sent this research for your evaluation. You give a clear-cut idea on that, whether it is up to the mark or not, but you are thinking that I am your friend. That's why the evaluation or the report would be okay. This is one aspect. Second is that the research is a matter of aptitude. It is not a matter of to fill the vacancy only. If we are going to fill the vacancy, then there would be different types of the things which will come forth. If we have the choice that the student is having a research aptitude, then the research aptitude of that student will speak in his work. It is not the supervisor who has to give the topic on which he or she has to work. It is the student who will work on his own terms. The student has to go for his work on the choice, on the interest on which he want to work. This is one thing. But what happens that in many cases supervisors, they are having specialization in one or the other area, so they provide the topic to the students and they work upon that because they are thinking themselves to be comfortable in that particular area. They don't want to go here and there. And the maximum percentage of teachers is like that. Supervisors is like that. But there are exceptions also. I'm not boosting high here, but if you see that the students who did their PhD, they started from 2009 on the cyber crime, and they have reached to the other aspects of the social, human rights, vulnerable group, various areas they are working. Because I always ask that student, what is your interest area? You are now presently one is doing on artificial intelligence with me. So I am not the expert of that area, but I will try to learn. I will try to guide. This should be the thinking of the supervisor. Then the student will come out with the interest area and the research would be in a proper manner. Otherwise, if the supervisor will force the student to work on that area, and how much time the supervisor will give on that, because supervisor has given that topic, but again the supervisor is not supervising, not guiding what the student will do. So that's why we are saying that there is a quantity is being enhanced, that number of research produced which, by the university, that is being on the higher side. Quality wise, where they are, everybody knows. And this is not specifically for one university or the other university. The university in the higher rank, this is going on air. I'm not going to take the name of the university. I have been, evaluating the thesis, PhD thesis of almost various universities in all the states in India, and I can say that almost the work is not different as from the universities we are. It is not like that. Some work may be good, but normally that work is not to be said to be of a very important or very quality work. This is
right, ma'am. I was just simply going through the report of Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and if we go by the report, we are producing 24,000. India is producing 24,000 doctoral graduates every year.
Yes.
We are placed fourth, just after USA. I think USA is topping the list with 68,000, doctoral graduates. But the problem is, irony is, when I look at the ranking, BHU or Aligarh Muslim University or JNU or any other university, they are on the top of the list. I cannot recall even a single, innovation which these university has ever, given to the society. So, what is the point of this ranking where number one university is even not recognized by the teachers that about their contribution? So, don't you think that we are going in a wrong direction? The whole education is going in the wrong direction. Shall we think about different infrastructure? Different structure of evaluation?
Actually, what you see is that when we talk about the ranking or having the place in the top list of universities without doing any innovation, basically, as I told you, that depends on different parameters. And that parameter is having the lesser percentage or weightage in the list. The maximum weightage in NRF ranking is on how much money you are paying to the faculty members. So if the number of faculty members is on the higher side, everybody knows that in our university we are having 100 or 200. In big universities they are having in thousands of number. Of course, the number of the funding or the salary account, that is more and more there in that. So funding is there, and in that way, the as I told you, that the uniform scale of ranking or uniform scale for measuring the work, that is not to go with all the universities. It has to be separated according to what is the objective. What is our objective of the university? What we are for? Whether the same objective can be achieved by the other universities. When we were discussing on the NIRF, that we said that in this aspect we have got the maximum marks, but the weightage is only 10%. So the 90% is for the other things in which we are not there. That's why our number has been lessened down.
Right. Ma'am, I was just simply going through the new education policy structure. I found that new education policy is basically asking for creating undergraduate and graduate courses. Basically, undergraduate, graduate, and PhD.
Yes.
The structure that we are following till date is graduation, post-graduation, and PhD. MPhil is now eliminated. If we go by the new education policy, MPhil is eliminated. MPhil was very important part of understanding research. Why? Because we all know that we have given very little, space for research understanding in our MA syllabus. So how are we going to cope up with this particular, structure?
Actually, in this policy, there is a provision for globalization and internationalization of the education also. And you see, in the foreign countries, they go for the research and then postdoc. So that culture has to be, brought here. In India, by eliminating MPhil education, they are discussing about NRF, that has been discussing its policy, and that will be coming very soon. So they are discussing about that after research PhD, the more and more students should go for the postdoc,
Right.
so that they may compete at global level. Because if we show that the student ratio of the doctorate and postdoctorate is this much, and at global level everyone is having this postdoctorate degree, then we will stand nowhere. So we have to compete at the international fora also. And for that purpose, by wasting the time here in MPhil and other things, they are saying do PhD. Because you see, the provision in the NEP is that there is a 4-year graduation now. certificate, diploma, degree, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and the 4th year, if a student did his 4-year graduation, then research degree would be given to the student and directly may move to the postdoc or to the doctorate degree. So these type of the provisions which are the part of the national education policy, these are made compatible with the international education policies as such.
Ma'am, you're part of the IQACCL here also and NRF, NAC. What we have observed that during the presentation by Professor Jha, the focus of this university syllabus is on 2-year course, which is again, if we go by the new education policy, we'll have to change it maybe just after 1 year or 2 years. So what is the point in making 2 years, master's program when NEP is asking for 4-year program, 1-year master's program, and again, suppose you are making a 2-year program and somebody who is coming up with 4-year degree, how we are going to, include that particular person in our system? Because
actually, for this, we have to have a equivalence committee, number one. Secondly, the committee has been appointed, which is working on the framing of the syllabus, etc. And uniformity again is going to be one of the bigger tasks for this syllabus. At the same time, what you are talking about, that the 2 year and you are working on that, and next time you have to see that whether a student who is coming after doing its 4-year graduation, whether we be giving admission to the PhD or not, we have to, because the policy is providing for that. And at the second time, you see that there is no coordination between the regulatory bodies also. Because I belong to the field of law, I could see that we have started UGC has started 1-year LLM course since 2013. Now Bar Council of India says that after this session, this 1 year has to be eliminated. While NEP says that 1-year master's course would be there. So there is a lack of coordination also. That is the major problem for the institutions, where to go, how to go, because we are thinking of implementing the policy, and the policy itself says that it has to be implemented in phases right from 2030, 35 and 40 as a full.
Right.
And for that, as I told you, there are different types of the regulations at the administrative level, delays and all these things which we don't find at the private university level. Somebody has given some message here. The private universities are doing well. Yes, of course, private universities are doing well. There is one university in Sonipat, Jindal Open University. You know how many foreign faculties are there? 110 foreign faculties are there. Thousands and thousands students from the foreign countries are there, and they are there in the global ranking. So because there are no restrictions on their work, they can do what they want. And at the same time, they are busy in clearing the visa, the passport, etc. of their faculty, of their students. International cell is there working very aptly. We are talking about that, but whether we have any student, if yes, then who are the teachers who can do this, whether they are trained or not. So there are many aspects. We cannot compare our situations with others.
But ma'am, don't you think that it will lead towards chaos, completely chaotic situation where we do not have, syllabus, maybe, uniform syllabus. Suppose your understanding of research is different, mine is different, and we both are offering research in 4-year program. So the student will again fall in the same trap, and their level of understanding will be different. So how to basically resolve it? Because it is going to create a big problem for the education system in India.
Actually, you see that when a committee is formed at the central level, uniformly making certain points for the entire education system. As I have been the member of LOCF, Learning Outcome Curricular Framework for Human Rights Committee at UGC. So what these committees do, that they decide for the core papers, the core basic papers which are required for a particular course. They do all these things for the core papers, and other things are left on the specific institutions. They can fill on. It is not the 100% you have to follow. The percentage has to be fixed, and that percentage these committees fix. They will not say that the university which is there here in Lucknow. In Lucknow, we are having 8-9 universities, center and state and private all. So one size will not fit to all. But if we are going to give the LLM degree, then basic papers or the core papers would remain the same. Specialization may differ. The other papers may differ. The choice paper, elective papers may differ, but not the base paper, the core paper. And that is what this syllabus committee is doing.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for clearing the doubts that we had. And what we feel that we need more and more such sessions. And
I have too many suggestions, but I have seen the time, so I stopped myself in between.
Yes. We wanted to keep this particular, discussion interactive so that the students and faculty members may also participate. It is not only about, a discussion from one side, but we wanted to give time to the other, participating members like teachers and students to ask questions to our experts. But since, as you have mentioned, yes, we have crossed 1.5 hours. It's time for the lunch also. So thank you very much, ma'am, on behalf of the university, on behalf of the social media committee, Silver Jubilee committee. I thank you a lot for such a wonderful, thought-provoking discussion. I think you have given a lot of points to basically ponder about. A lot of things which we all need to basically, check before, again going back to our, classroom. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for everything that you gave today, and I hope that you'll come again on this platform and deliver lecture on some other aspects of NEP. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, the participants, and those who have basically, not only joined but listened to the thoughts of our experts.
Thank you, sir, for nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Event.
Thank you, sir.
So much.
Thank you for everything.